In. Woohoo. So excited that we'll be dealing with this unusual topic and
In.
subject.
Woohoo.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Medical Mondays with Dr. O. We're here again tonight to see how best we can navigate the world we are in now in excellent health. And when I say that, I mean both physically and mentally. If the mental health is not together, physical health cannot be gotten together. So, as you all know, I'm Dr. Tony Okpesomi, Dr. O, and tonight we have one of our Medical Mondays family members, Ms. Aramide Adedeji, who is just amazing in the way she had used her life experiences to now be blessing our world, including going to the extent of becoming a licensed social worker herself and just doing amazing things and to bless our communities. Tonight, she's going to talk to us about from reals to reality, trends of online self-diagnosis and reframing strategies. So, Aramide, the floor is yours and welcome.
I think I'm on mute. Can everyone hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Dr. O, for the intro, and good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be back again. Happy Monday. I'm here to talk about reals to reality and the trend of people self-diagnosing. And as I'll talk about in my conversation with you all this evening, you'll find out that it is in all age groups, starting from, unfortunately, our younger babies around 10, 11, 12, all the way up to our elderly 60s and on up. So we're going to talk about what that looks like, why we do that, and what we are to do as either professionals or parents, and everybody in between. So before I go into my slides, I wanted to ask if y'all can put in the chat or unmute if you have one, two, three social media apps on your phone right now. You can just put, you can do thumbs up, you can say it, or put it in the chat. Anybody? Okay, thumbs up. All right. Anybody else? I can't really see everybody.
I'm
So,
seeing a lot of thumbs ups.
oh, a lot of thumbs up. Okay, I can't see it
Yeah,
from. Okay, all right.
tons of thumbs
A,
ups.
a lot of thumbs up.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Who has more than four social media apps? Okay. Okay. Dr.
I see
Ronke has more
one.
than
Yeah.
four.
Mhm.
Okay.
Two.
Miss Ellen. Okay. Okay. Who can beat more than four? Who has more than four? Okay, nobody? Okay. All right. So, second question. How many hours a day would you say you spend on social media? You can put the numbers in the chat or you can unmute. Okay.
Dr.
Does
Gulaya.
that face mean too many hours?
Oh
Is
my
that what that
God.
means?
Oh my God.
This is a safe space. Let me put that out there. Okay, less than 1 hour. Okay. All right. Anybody else brave enough? Be honest. 1 hour. Okay. All right. Okay. Can't see anybody else. So, okay. About three, but not every day. Okay. All right. So let me read some averages about average time spent by age group really quick. Okay. We have somebody that says over 3 hours. Okay.
Auntie Tawa
Thank
says 3 hours.
3 hours.
Sister
Okay.
Ellen Toppin says about three, but not every day.
Okay.
Dr. Okweyemi Adewale says over 3 hours. Professor
Okay.
Gulisi, 1 hour. And Dr. Guleye lasts like 100 hours.
Oh,
Dr. Ajay says less than 1 hour.
In
okay.
my defense, in my defense, I'm an educator.
That is
I
true.
I have a mission for being on there. And also I have online businesses. So yeah.
You're right. You are 100% right. You see, you didn't ask why people are on it.
Didn't
She has to be online.
I didn't. I didn't. And that's okay. Again, this is a safe space, no judgment. So let everybody feel free and know that you are not going to be judged at all. So let me go through the average time spent. And again, this is not just online, business owners and what have you. We're talking about specifically social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit. Um, there's a few other ones that I can't name right now, but there's about 15 that that we can look at, but we're specifically talking about those. But let me go through the age groups. Age 8 through 12, which is the Gen Alphas. They're on social media about 1.5 to 2 hours a day. 13 to 17, 4.5 to 5 hours a day. 18 to 24, 4 to 4.5 hours a day. 25 to 34, 2.5 to 3 hours a day. 35 to 44, 2 to 2.5 hours. And then you jump to 45 to 54, 1 to 2 hours a day. 55 to 64, 1 to 1.5 hours a day. And then 65 and up, 45 to 60 minutes. That's what the that's what research says about the breakdown of usage, social media usage per age group. So when we look at the teens, that means the teens they're the highest group, and they're on social media 5 hours a day. And that means they are on social media 35 hours a week. Let that sink in for that group. That's nearly a full work shift. So let me get some responses, feedback about the age group and if you think that's accurate, not accurate, and all that. Let me get a few people to respond to that real quick.
I personally don't feel it's accurate.
Okay.
I think the younger ones spend a lot more time.
The 8 to
Anyway,
12.
no, from that age 12 all the way to, I don't know, even 40s. Everybody spends a lot of time,
Mhm.
much more time, I believe, on social media than what is reported there. If you even see people at restaurants, you see families at restaurants. Initially, in the past, families will sit and they chatting, they talking, maybe asking, knowing what each other are doing during during the day and all. Now everybody's on their phone. It's really pathetic. It bothers me every time I see that. And they spend more time. I don't believe that
Thank you, Dr.
that
O.
data.
Yes, Miss Ellen.
I can't say whether the numbers are accurate or not. I am in that bracket that says it's 45 to 60 minutes And I know that some days I spend much more time on that
Mhm.
than that. What we have to take into consideration, I think somebody said there, that person said, I'm an educator, so I'm using the online tools more often than maybe the average person. So I'm saying that to say, in order for us to really come up with a true um, analysis, there's some additional questions because, for example, somebody like me who uses social media to do advocacy, some days I can be on it for maybe 3 hours because I'm posting, I'm responding, right? It might be a month when there's a specific advocacy work that we're doing that particular month. And so that month you might see a whole lot of activity from a lot of people, and then the next month you might not. So I think while that might be accurate based on the assessment that they did on the survey, they probably did it looking for certain specifics for persons who might not be actively engaged on social media as a tool for either advocacy or activism or teaching or educating or have a podcast or things like that.
Great. Thank you for that. And also all of these, and I agree with you all. This is what I've seen online, but again, all of these reports are based on self-reporting as well. And if you're looking at the younger block of the reporting, they have an idea that adults find social media to be problematic and challenging. And so if you're asking an 8-year-old or a 12-year-old or even a 17-year-old how many hours, they're not going to say, I spend 35 hours a week on social media, you know? So I think that we have to kind of look at the nuanced situations that might reduce or increase those numbers. So, but I just wanted to share with you all what the
Can I
research.
please make a comment? I'm
Yes,
trying to
yes,
find my.
please.
Yeah, I think this I uh is this 64-year-olds and above?
Yes,
The number that is estimated, I find that to be relevant to me. And
the
culturally, I
45
think
to
people in
60
that age,
minutes.
yeah,
Hmm.
I don't spend more than 60 minutes on social media. But I'm saying that to say I can see the justification in that number because people in that age group will still pick up the phone and talk to their friend, and they can be on the phone for 1 hour or 2 hours, that amount of time. Those that are heavy social media, they can hardly stay on the phone to talk to a person more than
Right,
10 minutes.
right,
You know,
right,
their fixation is on the screen. They have to get back to whether they're watching Yoruba play from whatever, or some kind of whatever it is, TikTok.
yeah,
It's so yeah, it's more captivating to them. But those who culturally can be on the phone with their friends and whatever have less need for the social media aspect of it, unless you're working like Dr. Gunleye's case, a few others. But again, that is an average. But I think it's not because people in that age group have difficulty with using social media. It's just that they get their kicks by talking to their age group friends rather than
right,
social media
right,
activities. Yeah.
right. That's a great point, Madam. And Dr. Ronke said WhatsApp is a social media app. It is, because it has generally all the features or a lot of the features of the other ones. You have the disappearing messages. Oh, I forgot Snapchat. That's a big one that the younger people use. So, but yeah, thank you for that. But today we're talking about the issue of people diagnosing themselves because of all the times that they're spending on social media and the algorithm that's guiding that self-diagnosis. So I just wanted to share some things with y'all. Um, all right. So another truth moment. Raise your hands or thumbs up if you've Googled symptoms, used WebMD, watched a medical TikTok, watched a reel and said, yeah, that's me. Or giving yourself a diagnosis before you saw a doctor. Okay, so I'm seeing some thumbs. Okay.
I just call Dr. O. That's all I do.
I was gonna say, Dr. O, what do I have? Can you tell
I
me,
know.
please?
I'm always saying, hey, they said you said you're fine. You're fine. That's my Dr. Google.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, some stuff is coming in the chat. Let's see. Okay, not the diagnosis, but research. Okay. All right. Anybody else done any of these things?
I can
So
tell you, a lot of people do it. Dr. Google
yeah,
is the real thing.
for sure,
And,
for
I
sure.
see it all the time. Oh, but I checked on Google. He said this. I'll be like,
For
okay.
sure, for sure. I definitely was notorious for checking WebMD. If you have an itch on your eyelid, some kind of pain in your leg, something, I used to check WebMD notoriously. And what does that do when people do? Let's just be honest. We're being truthful here. When you Google symptoms, what happens? What's the physiological and psychological responses that comes next? Can anyone help us with that? Anybody? What
Come again,
happens
my
when,
question.
sorry?
Come again, please.
So my question is, once you've Googled symptoms, you have pain in your head, pain somewhere in your body, heart beating fast, all these things. You've Googled it, you've checked WebMD. What happens next, usually? You've done the work of looking it up, then what happens?
You feel empowered. You feel that you know something. You feel you are next to the doctor. You yourself,
Okay.
you're a doctor.
Okay, that's one perspective. Okay, you feel empowered.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Well, I
Well,
think it's one or two. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I think it's one or two things. You either feel relief or you build up anxiety.
Absolutely. For sure. For sure. I know personally of a looking up WebMD, and everything that I read was what I had for sure. Everything. I read it and I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And they, of course, they have to list everything. They have to list, even when you see a commercial and they have the very small fine print of take this drug, it'll help you with this. But they put the really small, it could, possibly kill you. They put that very small at the bottom. WebMD has to do the same thing. And of course, if you read all the things, you're relieved. You're like, oh, thank God, I know what's happening. And then you start reading what could happen if you have this thing. And then you start to panic and you start to freak out. And, it does not end up helping because you do actually have to see a doctor for the things that you're feeling. But this is what happens. People do that. Dr. Google, it happens all the time. So for those in the room, those of us in the room that have done it, you're not alone. And one thing that I can say too, I have, even in the mental health space, I have people who are very sure of what they have. They've read it. I have one client right now. She has every diagnosis that you can think of, and she sends me videos of, I think I have this, don't you think? And even challenging my abilities, like you haven't caught this yet, that kind of vibe. And I'm like, girl, relax, but you have to, as I'll show us, we don't dismiss, but we create spaces for them to kind of talk about what is it that you're actually feeling.
Well, in the chat box, Dr. Gulaya says Dr. Google teaches what questions to ask her doctor. And Sister Ellen Tappin says, don't forget Chat GPT. And also,
Yep,
when you were asking the question after you Google and all what happens, she wrote
yeah.
over-the-counter drugs.
Yep.
So they may point you to over-the-counter drugs, but are you correctly diagnosed? I don't know.
Correct. Because even ChatGPT, I mean, I have one too, like everyone else. At the bottom, it says ChatGPT can make mistakes. So at the end of the day, people are looking for something, and that's what causes them to go search for it. But what we want to do is to help them speak to the right people and also get the other half of what searching is looking for, which I'll talk about in a moment. All right. All right. Okay, so let's take a quick case study. All right, so our friend is Taylor. Taylor has gone she's gone on TikTok, and Taylor plugs in a couple things and her algorithm gives her something. But look at Taylor. Taylor says, I lose my keys every day. I interrupt people. I start 10 projects and finish none. I get bored easily. What do you think not Twitter. What do you think TikTok is going to diagnose Taylor with? Just,
I would
what do you
say
think?
ADHD.
Okay. All right. Anybody
That's
else?
what I would say.
Yeah, that's pretty
Anybody
much
else?
it.
Say what?
That's pretty much it.
Pretty much
ADHD.
it. Okay.
Mhm.
Everybody in agreement?
Yeah.
Okay.
Attention
Anxiety.
deficit hyperactivity disorder.
Okay. All right.
Anxiety.
Okay. Anxiety. Okay. All right. Those are good contenders. Let's see what TikTok tells Taylor she has. ADHD. That's what TikTok tells Taylor. All of those things that she listed, and she may feel that that's right. Finally, I have an answer to why I do all these things. However, I'm here to insert that could it be any of these other things?
It could be.
It could be, right?
Yeah.
It could be any of these things. But because Taylor, we don't, there's no age, so let's put age and, what we just talked about, age range wise, to the side. Any of these things could be going on. But because Taylor's looking for something, she may be content and feel satisfied with saying, hey, I have ADHD. And then she may seek out supports specific to that and ignoring all these other possibilities. And so that's where the trajectory of self-diagnosis comes in. And then once you've Googled, um, plugged into your algorithm ADHD, what is Taylor going to now get? What is she going to get? A lot of content related to ADHD, a lot of content about, her symptoms and why it is exactly ADHD. It's going to tell her, yes, finally, you've gotten an answer to what you've been dealing with. And so you need to go to your doctor and tell them that you need ADHD medication. If a good doctor is going to ask her all of these. Have you been sleep deprived? If she happens to be a new parent, then is that possible? What has shifted between the last 3 months versus now? So those are the kind of things. But, a lot of people are going into this space of just wanting to have answers to the things that they're feeling. And there's something beneath all of that, which we're going to talk about. There's something beneath just going online, what is happening to me, what's going on with me, that kind of thing. All right.
Can I please ask a question?
Yes.
With the not a diagnosis, with this characteristics of Taylor, right, that you described.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he or she starts 10 projects, none of them completed. Could she be disinterested? It could be for lack of goal, lack of target, but clearly she's bored. You know, she's not just sleeping. So how can sleep deprivation, or will sleep deprivation, as one of those examples, result in somebody doing 10 things and not finishing them? They don't have energy to be doing 10 things. Could it be that she doesn't have a goal? She's totally distracted because she's not interested in whatever it is that she's doing.
Right. So that list wasn't that all of those things are happening to Taylor. Those are examples that could be happening to Taylor. Yeah, they're not all together that she's sleep deprived and also not finishing 10 projects. The when she and I'll explain this in another slide. To her, something is happening with her that she feels dissatisfied, doesn't feel like she's um, achieving all the things in life that she wants to achieve. And so she's looking at a very narrow picture of, well, maybe I have something. I don't finish any of the projects I start. And so people zero in on that. Oh, I lose my keys every day. So someone zeroes in on that. Whereas there's something bigger to the picture. So that next list was basically me saying that it could be a number of these things. And if we're using the projects as an example, 10 projects could be, 5 of them could be a house project. I wanted to put laundry away. I wanted to, cook tonight's family dinner. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do that. So any of those things could fit into that. But it's just to give us an idea that when people try to self-diagnose, they're trying to satisfy something else. They're trying to satisfy a dissatisfaction, some kind of pain, unresolved issue. There's something else happening that pushes them to just type it in. And I don't want to give away the whole reason because it's going to come up in a slide, but I'll share with y'all why people do that. So let me keep going, and probably some of the answers or questions that y'all have, I have the answers on a slide. Let me do it like this. Okay. So one big idea is social media isn't creating the mental illness. It's creating language, and the language is of connection and of support. If someone else is going through or is sharing something that I feel I have, then I'm already feeling connected. I'm already feeling something that I didn't have before I researched this. So it's creating that space. Sometimes that space is helpful because, like we all have already talked about, some people do the research and they find things that they want to then present to their doctor. So that's very helpful. Sometimes it's harmful because, again, someone who is looking for connection, if they are suffering in their regular life and they don't have anyone to talk to about it in their real life, and then they go online, then there's people who are ready to exploit that, and that can be very, very harmful. But all in all, social media in and of itself isn't creating these mental illnesses. People are looking for something, and that's what causes them to seek out different mediums to answer those questions in their head. All right. Why does this matter? Clients are not just bringing symptoms anymore. They're bringing diagnoses, treatment plans, medical requests, explanations, before they even meet a professional. So as I shared, I have a client who is very smart. She reads about many different, not only aspects of her life, but of potentially harmful things that could not only harm her, but her children, things like that. But she goes looking for these things to answer very specific questions. And then she's not bringing it to me to say, hey, let's help create my treatment plan. She's bringing it to me saying, this is what I have. And a lot of times, I would say 85 to 90% of the time, I'm telling her, you do not have that. You don't have that. You have this neurological something, something, fill in the blanks. She is researching it. She has it. That explains everything. And then we spend a full session dispelling why she doesn't have it. And that can be problematic because for the mental health professionals and medical professionals, you have to spend time helping your client understand that what you're seeing from your professional standpoint is not what they're bringing. I'll talk to us about how to handle that, but for the most part, it does impact the um, the treatment space, the ways that the doctor patient relationship can go. It can impact that. And so that's why this matters. Um, yeah. And then I wanted to show you all the statistics. Okay, so statistics wise, 84% of the people who was in this research project were misled by TikTok. 84%. That's the highest number of those who went on social media to seek information about about diagnoses or whatever situation or condition they had. 84% were misled. Adults in Gen Z, they self-diagnosed. 48% of them reported that. Adopted a self-label. My client will fall into that category. 30% of people. Even though that's a lower number, that's still high. That's a lot of people who are walking around feeling that they have the full answer of their diagnoses and they've now attached a label to themselves. A lot of things that I would hear, because I work with youth a lot, not only in church, but at work. And it became a trend for the young people to say, oh, you bipolar, you bipolar, you bipolar. I would hear that all the time. Another trending one is everyone is narcissistic. Everyone is narcissistic. Um, Another one is trying to think of a third one. Those are the two that I know for sure. Another one, because I work with teachers, almost every child is autistic. A lot I find, I work with teachers a lot, almost every day, and I find that they know maybe one or two symptoms that they believe are ascribed to all autistic children. And if they see one or two of those, all the children that they work with have that. And I did a training with them once and told them every child that has hyperactivity or doesn't show you eye contact is not ASD. So I had to
Alzheimer. If you forget something, they call you Alzheimer.
correct. Yeah, that's a good one too. Yep. Yep. That's a good one. So yeah, it become, definitely with the young people, the bipolar, that one used to bug me because I'm like, this is a real condition. This is a very challenging condition. Whether it's bipolar 1 or 2, can be very, very challenging for the people who are suffering from it. It requires medication and all that. So when they're just like, ha ha ha, you bipolar, if I'm around it, I always speak up on that. But there's about 30% of people who have self-labeled themselves as something. And then at the very bottom, you see there 22% of this peer review actually consult a clinician first. That's a low number of people who um, maybe have done some research, but before they label or give themselves any label, they are contacting or consulting with a clinician. So let me get quick feedback on that, on these numbers before we move on. Anybody who wants to chime in on those? I think something popped up in the chat. Let's see.
A lot of the things that just take a little discipline to get us back on track back in the day is now labeled ADHD.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we don't even know which one is just total
Yep.
lack of discipline or lack of commitment,
Mm-hmm.
and which one is really ADHD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is true. I have a youth that I was talking to on Saturday who, possibly does. I've worked with her for a while, and so she'll likely be um, diagnosed if she does the assessment. She'll likely be diagnosed as having adult ADHD. But she was sharing her frustration that her mom ignored some of the things that she was dealing with in school and struggled with, and just kind of pushed it off to say, she needed to work harder, try harder, and all that stuff. And, and now as an adult, she's finding some of those symptoms showing up. But, she's talking to her therapist, and she's talking to someone like me who she knows is a mental health professional and a therapist myself. So she would be in this green category of consultation. She's thinking that it's something, but she's trying to talk to the people that she knows. So, so that's important to note. And hopefully with more conversations like this, we can get this bottom number higher than what it is. Does anybody else have any other thoughts on this, the statistics?
I think if I may,
Yes.
sometimes what happens, and I teach children's church, so I have a lot of the younger kids, and sometimes I think what happens, some of the kids, people say, oh, they're hyperactive.
Mhm.
But if you can channel that energy into something positive, they might finish a task, for example, before everybody else.
Mhm.
So they're walking around the room and they want to do something, and another teacher say, oh, well, they need to sit down. And another teacher
Right.
might say, well, I think if we give him something to do whilst the others are working, you've channeled their energy, and you come to realize that that child doesn't have ADHD. That child
Right.
just, I'm going to use a word loosely, that child is just smarter, maybe, or has a higher IQ and needs to channel that energy differently versus labeling him or her
Right.
ADHD.
Right. That is very true. Thank you, Miss Ellen. Um, Opeyemi. I don't know if that's
Okay, thank you very much.
okay, sir. Yeah.
I think I would like to let me not just go straight forward to that conclusion for the fact that I think there is a trend of programming ongoing because it's to create a myriad of all these mental health um, I think is a mental health conditioning so that that whenever people try to hone those problems, first of all, label it. And when they hone those characteristics, of course, you want to make them to go for, you want to go for solution.
Yeah.
Whereas the real issue, because it's more or less that when you say somebody is hyperactive disorder, there are so many things that should be is an organic. You have some there are so many things that are incorporated in that disorder. For
Mhm.
somebody to just use one particular trait, to self-diagnose and eventually label it and I have this, I have this. So to me, over time, it's not even only ADHD, is there are so many other things that are being done now that make people to be labeling some problem, just only problem, so that you have to go after solution, which ordinarily they are majority just the normal challenges or of life, which
Yeah.
needs people to develop strength and all the coping skill to be able
Yeah.
to manage them. That's just my conclusion. I don't know how this goes, but I think I don't want to be biased with my own judgment. But this is, I see a trend. It's a trend. It's a social trend to
Mhm.
mentally condition people, and it's worse if it can be this self-diagnosis is on early ages. What are age groups? Maybe somebody between especially the adolescent teenagers. By the time those things enter in their memory, they believe it, and they
Oh,
so
yeah.
tell you. So it's very difficult eventually later on for them to be able to disown those kind of
Correct.
narratives. Thank you.
Very true. Very true. Because which I'll share in one of the slides coming up, once someone has adopted that as part of their makeup, part of their um, part of their life, this diagnosis, then they embody it and they operate off of having that said diagnosis. And that poses a challenge in all the areas of their life, in the way that they handle relationships, the way that they do in school, and so on, performance at work and all of that. So so that is very, very important to note. Thank you, sir. All right. I don't know if this will play, but I'm only going to play about 5 minutes of this. So let's see. Please let me know if you can hear it.
So, you think you know how to use me, but I can do more. Get advanced
Can you
in
all
6
hear that?
industry tools to become a data analyst by August. Start today with 15 minutes of daily.
Yes.
Have videos like these made you think you could
You can
have
hear this?
ADHD? Well, you're not alone. More and more people are turning to social media for
Yes.
As well as having an increase in formal diagnosis, we have seen an increase in people who sort of self-identify or self-diagnose as having these conditions.
On TikTok, hashtag ADHD has nearly 4 million posts, and the way the algorithm works means once you like a video related to a certain topic, similar videos will keep getting pushed onto your For You page.
There's people that might see so much and then start to see themselves in that content because they think it's being pushed to me, so it must be me, and you become defined by what you're being shown.
In this video, we speak to an expert who will myth bust some of the viral ADHD symptoms on TikTok, and we'll ask people who have been diagnosed or self-diagnosed with ADHD what they think about their experience with this sort of content. Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder is a neurodevelopmental disorder that affects behavior and concentration. You probably know someone with ADHD. It affects around 2.6 million people in the UK. And it's estimated that a further 2 million people in the UK have ADHD but don't have an official diagnosis yet, which could be why so many people are turning to social media to help get answers. Now, there are different types of therapy and medication available. ADHD is a spectrum, and the symptoms vary for each person. This is just one example looking at the range. Some TikTokers suggest symptoms can vary from playing the same song on repeat to ADHD paralysis. While these videos may be useful in raising awareness, they're not always right. One study found that almost 3/4 of misleading TikToks on ADHD emphasize symptoms that could fit multiple disorders. We picked some viral ADHD symptoms and asked our expert, Dr. Hannah Hobson, to do some myth busting. So let me put some of these ideas to you. You can tell me if you think they're a myth or not. Daydreaming or trouble focusing.
That can be a symptom of ADHD.
Listening to the same song on repeat.
No, I don't think so.
There was a study a few years ago, about 80% of us have a song that we like to listen to every day.
Impulsive decision making.
Can be, yep.
Poor time management.
Yes, can be.
Sensitivity or difficulty controlling emotions.
It can be, yes.
Hyperfocus.
Yes, yeah, that can be.
We tend to think of people with ADHD as unable to pay attention at all, but actually, when you get into something you're really engaged with, you can get into the states of hyperfocus.
ADHD paralysis.
Can be, yes. It describes when people with ADHD struggle to initiate tasks, so to start a task that they need to get done.
Forgetfulness.
Yes, that can be.
Interrupting conversations.
Yes, can be.
And guessing movie plots.
I think that's just being into your movies and having watched too many of them that you start to work out what's going to happen. I don't think it's a symptom of ADHD.
If you're watching this and you're thinking, I do some of those things, what does that mean?
So all of those, a person who is neurotypical, who doesn't have autism, who doesn't have ADHD, we will all experience those, probably every day. The other thing is that a lot of those aren't necessarily very specific to ADHD. They can reflect something else. Other conditions like autism, or they can reflect anxiety, or they can reflect sleep problems.
Well, we'll speak to Hannah again later, but first let's hear from some people sharing their own experiences of neurodiversity. Stephanie has been diagnosed with ADHD and autism. Danny has recently been diagnosed with ADHD and has OCD too. And Kayhan thinks she could have ADHD. What made you think that you had ADHD?
When you hear about something where you know there's something that's not quite right, for sake of argument, with you, you're always kind of looking for your place to fit. And every time someone mentioned someone that had ADHD, I was like, I should probably look into that. And then I found the official paper that you'll do with your GP as well. And I don't test well, but I tested very well there.
When I was looking at it and looking at the symptoms, some of the examples and what they go through, it was a bit like, it sounds a bit like me. But I never went ahead and got diagnosed for it or went out to go to the GP or anything.
And the people watching your videos, Stephanie, do you think, and self-diagnosing, they're using you to figure out what's going on with them?
All the time. A lot of the symptoms of ADHD are not specific to ADHD, in that sometimes a neuronormative person can be hyperactive. It's more the extent to which you do these things, to the point where they become debilitating and they stop you from being able to do other things in your daily life.
You've got all this content telling you what the symptoms are, and then don't you have an awful lot of people thinking, well, I'm a little bit ADHD. And is that real?
How many people would get missed if there wasn't that content there? Where else would you go for it? No one goes to the doctors and goes, I just want a checkup. And they go, cool, should we do an ADHD test? You have to go armed with that knowledge.
Because with me, if I didn't see it on TikTok, I probably wouldn't even think about me having ADHD.
These things need to be spoken about. And even if there are people that are going around saying, oh yeah, I'm just a little bit ADHD, I'm a little bit this, I'm a little bit that, at least people are talking about it.
Do you think that TikTok does more harm than good, or more good than harm?
What's really harmful is how easy it is to trivialize something, but how hard it is to then discuss what it actually is and further that conversation. Like when people are just doing a makeup video and they're like, oh, forgive my makeup brushes being in this order, it's my OCD. How do you jump into the comments and go, actually, no, my OCD makes me think that that speed bump that I went over was a person, so I've sat by the road for 3 hours to make sure that the police didn't come and get me? How do I explain that in a comment section to someone that's just used it as a throwaway comment?
It can be good sometimes, other times it's not, because it's informative, but then other times it's kind of rude and disrespectful to people who do have ADHD, because then they're like, well, you're just making me feel bad for having it.
Do you think...
I'm gonna stop it there. Let me get some feedback on that video.
Sounds as if the video is telling us we can't take any single symptom in isolation and conclude that that's the diagnosis.
Yep. It's saying,
dialogue,
sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
I say it's a good dialogue, the balancing of both of them. There are people that are going to be on one side of the pendulum and others on the other. It doesn't matter how much TikTok. Sometimes people forget about the motive for people who are doing this TikTok.
For sure. For sure.
Because a medical doctor is not going to go on TikTok. So these are just influencers or marketers or whatever, because they know that more people listen to them than they would listen to professionals. So it's a good video, though. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I agree. Thanks for sharing. I am stunned that people watch these things and they actually start self-diagnosing. What we talk about is people not believing their diagnosis. When we diagnose, especially mental health, people who go into denial and don't want intervention is what we worry about. But now seeing that people are actually diagnosing themselves.
Yeah.
That one diagnosing herself with ADHD and said that if she had not seen it on TikTok,
right,
she would never have thought. She would never
right.
have, considered diagnosing herself. That's disturbing. And Madam Lara is 100% right that our generations today are not considering the motive behind the influencers, why they're doing what they're doing.
Yep.
And in medicine, it's not one symptom usually that we use to diagnose. You have to put everything in context. And
That's
as we
right.
discussed last week, everybody has something. It
Yep.
doesn't mean you need to be put on medication for it. Everybody has something that you don't need to be treated for, but you should be aware of so that you can control it, maybe with counseling, with something like that, then you will know how to handle that. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, Miss Ellen.
My input is a little bit different with the data that has been shared, not disputing it, but have we stopped to ask the question, why some of the people, or maybe the majority of the people who are going to TikTok or to social media, whether it be ChatGPT or Google or wherever they're going to self-diagnose, have we stopped to ask the question, why?
Well,
why are they turned into that source to self-diagnose?
I mean, I have personally an answer that I'm going to show in a slide coming up, but
yeah, I will wait for that. Sorry, doctor. I will wait for that.
Yeah.
Before I share what I think is the cause. So I will wait for that. Thank you.
I think it's curiosity. People wants to know.
And also, healthcare is not free.
Exactly. So it's the health inequity. It's the health inequity, and people who don't have insurance coverage or may not be able to afford the copay, and then buy the prescribed drugs that the doctor will prescribe. So they're looking for alternative ways, not that it's correct and not that the information they're going to be getting is accurate, but they're looking for alternative ways to deal with the symptoms that somebody might say, I used to have that. And this used to be my symptoms. And this is where I got. And so they're looking for answers outside of professional medical care because that's the solution for them. So, and
go ahead. I have a comment when you finish.
I think she's finished, Madam Lara.
She says she's finished?
She put herself on mute, so I'm assuming.
I am finished. I just want to posit that, everybody might have a different viewpoint, etc. But we have to find the source, we have to find the source before we could come up with the cure.
Yep.
Right?
Well, my comment also is that this generation, you have to understand some of the fundamentals about their thought process. These people, they disrupt, they don't believe anything that anybody says. They've been trained.
That's a good point.
They've been trained to validate anything. They've been trained to challenge anything. They've been trained to figure things out. It's part of their critical thinking. I remember I have my 25-year-old when she was like even 14, 15. If I'm telling us, people from Africa, we have our own system. We may not have GPS, but we know how to get to where we're going. So when I'm telling her stuff, she's pulling up Google to check whatever I'm saying. I say, what? You're not going to find everything based on experience on Google. I say, Mom, I know, but my age group don't think like that.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily about insurance or whatever, but they want to own their decision making. That's one of the things. They would disrupt anything that you tell them or say to them. They figure out, I mean, their ways are not our ways, but they find a way of figuring it out.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the preponderance of this trajectory that we have. Unfortunately, it went into medical stuff, and it's probably that same age group that suffered a great deal of mental health that resulted from COVID. Because these are people that would go out to hang out. They were not the telephone kind of people. They would go out to hang out, but COVID shut them down when there was no hangout places. But other things came as a result of COVID too. DoorDash was not popular, all of those other things. But so I think it's a generational thing, mostly. Because in our generation, there weren't a lot of people that we would say, quote unquote, crazy. And we also have a very demeaning way to describe it too. We say, oh, this person is loony. But so a lot of people don't want to come out to say, oh, this is what's wrong with me, or this is what. So they want to know it and maybe self-manage it, not even just self-medicate it. They self-manage it, But it's more of a generational thing than the lack of insurance or whatever. Because the government did a lot to make healthcare available. They had the Obamacare, they had who else came up? Trump Care, whatever, all of those other people. They have free clinics for everywhere. But guess what? You will find more people lined up in the cannabis dispensary than you see people going to the pharmacy to get the stuff. So it's a combination of so many things.
Thank you for sharing that, Lara. Okay, I'm gonna keep going through. And I have a couple theories. I think all of those are, I think it's more of a and as opposed to or. I think all of those pieces that everyone mentioned are part of it. So we're bringing awareness to all of them so that when we see that, not only as professionals, but in our children or, in other people, then we kind of have some understanding. That's the hope. So why do people self-diagnose? Some of the young people on that video shared the reasons why they did. And I have that link to that video at the end so people can watch the full clip. But one of them is explanatory clarity. A diagnostic label offers immediate relief and explains years of underlying focus fatigue, for example. So someone who is really trying to figure out what is happening with me, I've been having this pain that I've ignored, or I have an issue with focus, or I'm not moving as fast as I can, or I'm looking at others. It seems like people are excelling and I'm not. It kind of helps explain. Burnout protection, adopting a clinical label allows people to assert boundaries and justify stepped back career obligations without feeling personal or moral failure. So it's sort of connected to the explanatory clarity, but it prevents people from overextending themselves, because what naturally comes to their mind is that, oh, I'm failing, I'm not moving fast enough, and that causes them to push themselves in either work or in different areas of their life. But if they are able to understand, oh, I have this diagnosis. I was watching an African Magic movie with my daughter yesterday, and I was so excited because they were talking about my area, mental health, and the short version of that storyline, a student who has dyslexia. He's a 30-year-old student in university, but he was always disrupting the class. He was always getting into fights with teachers, and then this new professor comes in and she really poured into him to really try to find out, why is he really a knucklehead? Why is he always causing problems? So she started to ask him questions. Do you have trouble? Do words look different to you when you see them on the page? Do you feel confused? Do you feel foggy? Do you get anxious? And he was like, yeah, I do, I do, I do. And she said, I think you have dyslexia. The person who was so disruptive and rude and nasty and all that, all of a sudden you could just see the relief in his demeanor. You could see he was less anxious. He wasn't as shaky and anxious as he was. But that's really what it really does when people do that for themselves. They get some inclination online, TikTok, social media, what have you, that you might be experiencing such and such. And this can, once you understand that's probably what you're dealing with, then there's something that is freeing, something that helps them even excel. The way that movie ended was that the student who was a 30-year student who was practically failing every semester, he was able to pass all his courses all of a sudden because, the notion was that now that he understood that he had a learning disability, that he now studied differently and he was able to kind of put in accommodations for himself. And then testing barriers with formal neuropsychological testing costing thousands and waitlist stretching for months, digital content serves as free, immediate diagnostic proxy. And I think someone mentioned that a moment ago around the free healthcare. I can just go on social media and see, I can plug in certain keywords, buzzwords, and something related to this will pop up. And as the video showed, you like one, and it's going to constantly send you all of the things related to ADHD, all the things related to OCD, all the things related to all these symptoms that you think you have. And then, of course, as you watch one video, then another one pops up and another one pops up. It's going to become more clear and clear to you that, oh, I definitely have this because, the one lady said it, but the guy also said it. So it starts to kind of connect for people. And then why does this happen? People aren't looking for labels. So people are not doing that so that someone can look down on them or wag their fingers or say you are part of the other or you're a mentally challenged person. They're looking for explanation and they're looking for community. If there's 100,000 videos of ADHD, you are now part of the ADHD community, as opposed to you sitting on your own, trying to figure out what's wrong with me, what's happening with me. You have now received explanation. You've now received belonging. So any one of those 100,000 videos, you can DM the person, oh, thank you for sharing that. If not for your video, I wouldn't have known that I had such and such. I'm looking for validation. They're looking for a community. And I think that's probably one of the bigger things that's happening with this age group, or the group that does this the most, is that community, because there's a lot of other things that are challenging. They could come from families, especially, my very Nigerian dad, if I told him I feel like I have ADHD, I would have been either laughed at or really yelled at out of the room, and would have been told to work harder or something. And so a lot of times you don't have that community in your family or in your friends. You don't want to feel, I have a lot of clients as a therapist who they are the ones in their friend group that don't really want to be, they don't want to create any ripples. They don't want to really shake anything up. They just want to be there. They just want to be in the community of people, but no one actually really knows what they're dealing with. And so you have this what's considered to them a safe space where you can be one of 100,000 people who are experiencing something, and someone is validating everything that you feel. There's something comforting about that. There's something that feels safe about that. And, you know, as a parent or a professional of that person, that might be worrisome and scary. But I think the whole premise of me doing this training is to help us go beneath that, to say, why are they looking for that community? And how can we help? How can we take them out of the online spaces? They can do research and all that stuff, but how do they then bring it back to real life people in their life, whether that's a doctor, whether that's a loved one or something? That's the whole point. Yeah, I think somebody wrote something in the chat. Let's see. Yeah, I hear you, Dr. Ronke. The crutch piece, I've heard that. I have a
So
cousin.
the
Yes.
comment is, but some use it as a crutch and stop trying.
Yes. Yeah. So my theory, I have a cousin who says that all the time. I'm so sick of hearing of mental health. Everybody doesn't have mental health illnesses, da 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 da. I'm so sick of hearing about that. And even with the comment about crutch, my theory and my thought is that why is someone, what is missing that someone needs to use this as a crutch? That's always going to be my question. And if a client comes in and I recognize that that is something that they are using, we will dissect it to find out why. What is missing? What is it that you need that you're not getting? So that would be my response to that. You know, there's always a why behind behaviors. As when I meet with teachers, I always say every behavior is a communication of something. Just because we are older than children, the theory is still the same. What are we trying to communicate that we feel we're not getting by these behaviors? So that would be my response to that. But I think I saw somebody else's hand.
Professor Babasangri,
Okay.
you can unmute. Thank you, sir.
Hello. Thank you so much for the presentation. And I think there was a 2014, I think, this presentation, a paper called the normalization of the abnormal and the abnormalization of the normal. So because I'm seeing a trend in society, like I think a gentleman was speaking about conditioning. We have been conditioned to think that this is the way we are, and then the terminology is used as mental health or mental illness, and so everything else is, if it doesn't fit certain criteria of certain quote unquote experts, then it is abnormal and needs attention. And that's where we are going in this presentation. I mean, I'm not saying it's your presentation per se, but this is a trend that we're going, because you say why do people self-diagnose? Well, who knows you better than yourself in most cases? You know yourself more than anybody sitting from your text and asking you, how do you feel today? And what's going on with your life? And I'm telling you this, and then the next thing you tell me, oh, well, maybe you are in denial, you know. So it's like there's no win. It's a win-win, but lose-lose for the people we describe as the clients or the this thing, because we label them. Now, the contradiction I also see is that we say, well, we don't want the stigma on them, but stigma starts with labeling. The moment you label somebody, that's a stigma already. That you can, stigma doesn't come with, if I say you're a felon, that is it. The stigma is that you are there's something about you that people should be wary of, so there's a stigma. So to avoid the stigma, we need to avoid the label.
Sure.
Humans are not created or socialized to act exactly the same way or respond the same way in different situations. Even as I say, and geneticists, some of them say that we respond differently in different situations. So my concern is when we are saying, why do people self-diagnose? And we are given reason. So in other words, I'm saying to you, you don't know yourself. I know you better than you know yourself. And because I am the expert, and therefore I have to now label you. I don't know. So I think I agree with the gentleman that actors self-conditioning, something that we need to be very careful about, because we are moving from a culture whereby we understand that we need to discipline our children, and then we are now in the culture that seems the children actually dictate to the parents in some instance how to be raised. You know what I mean? The child wants this and they want this, and then if you say no, then you are a bad parent. So we have to be very cognizant in the sense that we can be labeling people negatively, but we are now saying, don't stigmatize them. But we can label, some people can label them, but we shouldn't stigmatize them. So mental illness is a very subjective, in other words, for us, so again, I'll go back to my sociological analysis, is that it's an interpretive thing, or what I call suggestive.
Subjective, yeah.
It's subjective, and therefore it's suggestive, subjective, and speculative. But people take it as it is a real diagnosis because somebody who is quote unquote in a position of expert says so, but it's subjective. So I don't know what the answer is, but we are also sometimes the TikToks that we hear about, TikTok, some of them is marketing. They are also
for
marketing.
Sure.
Yeah, they are marketing the idea of the mental illness. And everybody, if you are presenting that, you are marketing it. Willingly or knowingly or unknowingly, you are marketing it to the people who push that profession into saying, everybody needs to be diagnosed, or then say, well, you start at this age, or we start this age. So for us, we say the damage starts because when you start saying to a child 3, 5 years old, they have some mental issue, I think you may end up damaging them. So I don't know. Mental illness is a very, again, subjective. So we shouldn't take it as a science. It's not a science. So, and therefore, we should be very, aware. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I want to share perspective because this thing can go in diverse areas. The struggle is real for some people, so we cannot undermine those who are actually really going through mental illness. And I know this topic is about those who self-diagnose themselves as a result of the conditioning, the learning, what they've learned from social media. But I want to bring something to the surface. A long time ago, Dr. O hosted one of these sessions and brought people with the LGBTQ to come and talk to us. So at the end of the day, sometimes it's about acceptance.
Yeah.
We are all born into a family, and everybody wants to feel valued. So you are going to connect with people who value you.
That's right.
So if human being, we don't have relationship with any of these people and they don't feel valued, if social media is where they feel connected, where they feel alive, where they feel they have an identity, that's where they're going to go.
Yep.
So it's about value, it's about community, it's about acceptance, it's about being flexible, it's about all of us being open-minded. It doesn't mean one size fits all. We still have our own distinction about the kind of people you want to relate with. But these people, this mental health, is maybe a whole lot easier for them to just be by themselves. And you will see most of those who are diagnosed as mental health, they live in isolation or they stay in isolation. They just be in their room or in their car or whatever it is that they choose to be, all by themselves. And people have written them off because they have mental health, not relating with them. So it's a societal cleansing. If medication works for some people, so be it. But loving some of these people can change their perception of
For
what they
sure.
think is going on or the
Yep.
diagnosis.
Okay, I think can I make an observation? You're
Go
right.
ahead.
You're right about that. But also, you have to know if you label somebody, have we also consider that when you label somebody mentally ill, they wonder why. Maybe that may be the reason why they're isolating themselves because they feel like, okay, here I have this issue. I don't know whether I will fit with these people or not. So that may be the result of the stigma. The labeling could be something that they are struggling with. And two, I think you're right, the LGBTQ, well, acceptance, I think people want to accept, but there is something called value. The culture we are brought up with a natural value in our lives. So if you say, somebody saying I'm a man in a woman's body or a woman in a man's body, while some religious people or not people who are even not religious will say, well, religious people say that God really made a mistake. Was it a mistake that you were born a man? Or was it a mistake that you were born a woman? Some religious people ask that question. And some traditionalists will also ask that who don't know God will say, well, I mean, what do you mean? They will just be shocked. So the identity sometimes is a public thing. It's not something that you make a decision that this is my identity, therefore you have to see it. So it is something sometimes we are asked to say, okay, accept everything that the individual determines this is what I want to be, rather than what is culture, what is the norm of there's a natural norm and there's a social norm. And life is not totally an individual culture per se, even though individuals come up with a culture and agree. So I think we have to, we were saying we have to accommodate everybody, I understand, but then people think validation.
No,
I don't know.
no, I don't mean accommodate everybody. No, I mean, there will be some segregation, but this stigmatization, like you as a sociologist, is about normalization and things like that. But normalization means there's another side of it that is abnormal. So what determines or what defines the abnormality? So some of these things are just, some are even class structure. So, but we're dealing with this age group that don't, they don't follow the traditional way of thinking, the way we grew up. We knew that this is this and that is that, but these people, they're blurred. They are, they're completely, the lines are blurred for them. And when somebody, even some of these children, you go out in the party and you see them, it's like when you say hello to them, they're shocked that you say hello to them. So, I'm just saying, the society is not about medication, it's not about fixing it. Some of these people are not broken, they don't need to be fixed.
Right.
But we have to be more open-minded and be more accepting of some things, not all things.
Right.
Yeah.
And we start wanting to fix it when we start labeling them. And that's why I say we need not to be labeling people. Oh, they have a mental this, or they have this, they have this, they have that. The moment you start creating a diagnosis on people, then there's a need for what? Fixing it. We need to fix it. And this thing is not fixable, and sometimes in the process of trying to quote unquote fix it, we may make it worse for others. And majority of the time, I think society makes it worse. So that's why we have to be very careful in labeling people, and I think that this is what I mean. Anyway, so labeling is very dangerous. That's basically what I'm trying to
And
say.
I tell you, Olamide, I'm sorry. One of this area, because I thought about this a long time ago, and I actually smile. But these are the ways that society, us, we have defined things. When you think about a pajamas, it's a fully clothed outfit, right? But we have already assigned pajamas as something that you wear when you go to bed. If you
Right.
see me driving in pajama, I go to the store. Am I still fully clothed?
Yep.
But you'll be shocked. Why would I come to a store in pajamas? You understand? These are just some of those things that we have defined. But
some students come to class with us, as those who are in education nowadays. Some of our students just come with the pajamas and say, "What the hell?" So, because it's the culture starting to accept some behavior that are not acceptable, and when we accept it, and society has made everything like, okay, the individual has the right to be whatever they want, even if it means deviating from the norm. So the students, actually, I have a student in my class just came with his pajamas last semester, and like, what the, everybody looking at him, but he didn't care. So why? Because society is making, we live in a more individualistic society rather than a community-oriented society with a norm that this is acceptable, this is not acceptable.
Yep.
That is not there anymore. There's no boundary, and that's dangerous.
Thank you so much, Professor, for your feedback, and Madam Lara too. Just wanted to say something. I wanted to make sure I didn't forget it. Something that you mentioned, Professor, around experts, an expert giving a diagnosis, and basically putting themselves in a position of knowing the person more than themselves, and I don't, me as a therapist, and hopefully a lot of mental health professionals don't do this either. I don't do that. I think what we are talking about here with this slide in particular, and that's why I took it back, is that it is our job, whether you are a mental health professional or teacher or parent, it is our job to understand what someone is missing and why they're finding more community online as opposed to in their home or with their friend groups or what have you. And for me as a mental health professional, it's important for me to, whenever a diagnosis is needed or being discussed, it is in conjunction with the expert, the client themselves. I will never give a diagnosis that a client did not take part in or was a part of the conversation. And because I agree with you around labeling and what that does, especially for the underserved and the Black and Brown communities, it is damaging. And so I think it's important for everyone that are privileged to be in the spaces to serve or as a parent or what have you, to make sure that we understand what people are really dealing with and how to help. I see two hands. Miss Ellen, did you want to add to this, or was that?
Yeah, I'm going to add that I had something to say from when Professor Barber spoke, but nevertheless, it's okay. Two things came up. I want to go back, if I may, when you gave some statistics at the beginning of the presentation. And you talked about the age group, I think it was the 13 to 17, that they spend about 4.5 to 5 hours on social media, and I believe the 18 to 24 are around the same thing.
Yes.
And if we were to look at that particular age group, maybe 13 to 24, right? We could push it to 30. But if you look at that particular age group, this is the particular group that's mostly on social media based on the data that you garnered, right? And what we're finding is that particular age group is spending so much time on social media because from my perspective, one word, listen. Who is listening to them in the home? So there's a breakdown in the communication and the relationship in the home because mom is working and dad is working and grandma is a younger grandma, so grandma is working too.
Yes.
Right? And so there's no longer that family dinner, and I'm talking generally here. There's no longer that family dinner and that good Sunday dinner when everybody comes together and talk and chat and that doesn't exist for the most part. And so that particular age group is doing what? They're navigating and they're deviating and I think somebody said it, maybe a number of people said it already. They're connecting with their peers in the social media space.
Very true.
And the information that they're getting in that social media space does not necessarily elevate and make them feel belonging. So even though they're belonging there, when they leave, they gotta sleep at some point.
That's right.
When they leave that space, then where do they find themselves? There's that void again because there's no relationship in the home. And so they're disconnected. So my question then is, and this is why I like Dr. O, since I started coming, I don't know, feel like if I've been here forever, but I just started coming maybe months ago, Dr. O. But why I like Dr. O is because we leave here information rich. Well, what do we do with that information? How are we positively impacting our communities so that they can understand the dangers of self-diagnosing, which is the case we're talking about tonight. But there's a number of other things we could go on and on, right? They go out there and they say, oh, take medical marijuana, and medical marijuana is laced with this, that, and the other. And then we have crazy people, so to speak, right? Mental people need more help. And, we have all these other things, right? Because they're going on TikTok and they're getting this quote unquote wrong information. So how do we take this information that we're getting here? And everybody who has heard me speak in the last couple of times, this has always been my takeaway. How do we take the information we are getting here? And all of us might be doing it, but this is only a circle, right? How do we expand that circle to help that generation? Because that's our future. Believe it or not, that's our defense. If we have to go to war in America, it's those people. Whether it's Nigeria or Ghana or Guyana or wherever, it's those people in that age group that we are going to send to war. That's our future. Who's going to provide care for us as we age? So how do we take the information that we get here Monday after Monday, and how do we leverage it to positively impact our communities? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellen. Can I hold that to the end? Is that possible?
Of course. Of course.
Yes.
Please remind me if I can't.
No, you can give that to us as a closing remark, but
Yes.
Dr. Oyewole has had his hand raised for a bit.
For a while. Yeah.
Please. Kindly unmute. Dr. Opeyemi. Dr. Opeyemi is.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
My submission is in line with the last speaker, because the truth of the matter is we all know that the problem has been, I won't call it a problem, I will call it a challenge. It's been it's right here in our table, but it didn't start today. It's something that has history. In medical in medical profession, when you want to get to a disease, to diagnose a disease, there's a state that we take history. History, you want to know the causes. After those causes, you use those causes to arrive at provisional diagnosis. After this, you want to do some investigation to confirm those diagnoses so that you can give in appropriate therapy. Okay. So what I just see here is the fact that we need to be aware, just like Prof. earlier said, because I see that the mental cases is like we cannot, not that we can't name it, we cannot just condition it to a particular set of traits, because human beings, we are different. In fact, I see mind is infinite in terms of its expansivity. So one thing that I want to say is that the problem is already ongoing. In fact, it's over a decade now that we have social media. So it's just that it's not very profound among this age group that we are talking about. Even among the adults, people are being, there is being conditioned. By the time you hear information over and over and over and over again, there is a tendency for you to start believing it. If that information is right, yes, so be it. If it is wrong, you have to believe it. So because the mind, our capacity, we have a capacity to believe things. So I think all these things are a product of our belief system, what we have been exposed to, information we have been exposed to, and eventually we want to quickly get solution to them. Yes, it is one thing that we need to know, that as many people that have opportunity to engage, especially with the children, young adults, we need to let people know what have they been exposed to. It's not things that they have been exposed to also will determine where they have landed themselves. And if we have identified people that have these so-called cases, yes, we have to have a way of managing them, as in not really stigmatizing them, because there have been how the society has to find a way of helping them. So, but that we can't deny the fact that we already have this problem in our society, and it's going to continue. Now we are getting to the era. This is the era of AI. Now more things will become, because a lot of we tend, as human beings, we tend to allow social media or technology, want to use technology for our advantage, but eventually technology is eventually taking over some of the things that we also to have used our brain, our mental faculty to do. So I think this is one of the problem, and it's going to continue. It's not a cause, but it's a trend. It's a trend. We all see it. It's all over. People are searching for knowledge. They are searching for information, how to get things done quickly. All these things are very, very important. Speed and all those things. How much can the brain accommodate? It's also a function of the training that we have given the brain. If the brain get too much information overload, it's going to break down. So I just want to say it at that level. It is very important for all of us to know, to be aware that there's a major problem here with issue of the social media. However, there are people that have fallen victim, people that have been affected severely. There are people, we can also prevent people from getting affected. And some of us also that we have been using, when we go to social media, maybe we should know what you are actually looking for. There is not all the information that are true out there. As far as somebody, an expert is saying something at times, may not really be all the truth. We may need to take time to find out, to really analyze, check things out by ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Professor Babasangri, you have your hand raised. Kindly unmute.
Okay, and I think I wanted to go back to what the presenter said, something about the 30-year-old students and the teachers and the behavior. So I wasn't there, so I don't know, but and eventually he was able to settle.
It was a movie.
Pardon?
I was referencing a movie just as an example.
The movie, okay. So in that movie, so that was a thing. So what I deduced from it for me is like what is it possible? Is it that the student was asking questions, curious questions to the teacher, and the teacher didn't like it? Because there are some teachers that when you ask them questions, maybe they don't have the answer. They may find it like you are. The students, difficult students, they can label you or something like that, because there are students that can challenge you, which is rightly so, because that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to challenge what you present, challenge the theory. But there are students that actually will tell you some of the teachers don't like that. So whatever these teachers present, the teachers find themselves as the authority. They know it and don't ask me a question, which is a very disadvantageous in terms of critical thinking, because we are now, it comes to like we are just schooling the student to just accept whatever we present, and that's not education. So is it? I'm just speculating. Is it possible that might have been what was going on? And secondly, and we live in and I agree with the idea that I think we're in the diaspora. We're in a very in sociology, we say we are marginal people. We are the marginal, the marginal man or marginal persons, because we are here. We are not fitting where we are trying to fit in here, and then we are going back home. We're trying to fit into the culture home. We are not fitting properly either. So, but what I can say is that I think our children. There's something that I would quote. I don't want to get biblical. I'm not a pastor, but there's something. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Why do you think the Bible says that? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and fools are the one who don't like wisdom or instruction. So there's something. Then I see what we are discussing. These kids don't want to listen. They don't. Why do you think they don't want to listen? Why do they do whatever they want? Or why is it that they rather do with their social media friends rather than dealing with the parents? Well, we are in a society that said the child has. Anytime you try to abstain, not abuse, even discipline a child, becomes, for some of the children, they turn it into a problem. I can give an example. I might have shared that before. A friend of mine from Africa here, actually is a co-worker, tried to tell the daughter not to watch too much TV and say you can watch it until this time and go to sleep and go and study. This daughter take it as a quote-unquote abuse or mental abuse. She went and reported it to the teacher in school, and the teacher called the parent for a parent-teacher conference and said, your daughter is saying that you are not allowing her to watch TV, so it's affecting her psychologically. So how do you, as a parent, how do you deal with that? So in other words, we are saying this person now said, well, you are mentally abusing me because you don't allow me to watch TV. And back home, our parents say, no, you have to focus on your education, not watch too much TV. So we have two different cultures clashing for us. We have cultural clash, and then the prevailing dominant culture, of course, will succeed because they are the psychologists, they are the most medical doctors, they are the ones who provide all the things that will make you to be dissatisfied, someone who is not happy with the mom or dad. So that's to me. So how do you deal with that as from your area? I'll throw that question to you. How, if you are that parent, how would you respond? And the fact that we are dealing with young people, mental illness, and young people, is it mental illness or lack of discipline, or they just want to be, they don't want to be disciplined, and or both? What do you think is going on here?
Okay.
Before you respond, I just want to read what Sister Ellen Tappin put in the chat box so you can put it together. She said, let's not forget we are parenting differently. The whole concept of soft parenting / gentle parenting, how is that impacting our society? So over to you, Aramide.
Okay. So answering that question in particular, well, you raised two. As far as the movie goes, I would say from what I saw, the teacher was a psychologist, and she basically did what I would do, which is look at the behavior and ask the question, what is beneath the bad behaviors? The 30-year-old who was throwing things at other kids in the classroom, disrupting the teacher and all that stuff. You know, she went home and went to tell her friend, oh my goodness, there's this crazy student in my class doing this, doing that. The friend was ready to write him off, you know, what a nonsense person. And she kept asking herself that question, which is something I'm going to bring up in one of my slides coming up, which is that we have to continuously remain curious. And that's what she did. She remained curious. She kept wondering, what is this behavior saying? What is he saying without saying it? What is he really experiencing? Why is he doing these things? Which ultimately, though it was a movie, but there's many, many instances like that in real life. Her curiosity led her to the answer, which is that, oh, in fact, he has a learning disability. And that allowed him to, receive accommodations to then pass his courses and things like that. Number two, as far as the child reporting to the teacher, I think, again, my issue is the community as a whole. I think that, wherever an individual, and especially the age range that we've talked heavily about tonight, if they don't find community to be in their home, they're going to find it somewhere else. And if they have found community with that teacher, then they're going to report you, the parent, to their teacher. And of course, if the parent and teacher aren't in community with themselves as an ecosystem of that child, then you are now against the messaging as opposed to being for, because there's no teacher that's also a parent that would then say this child is experiencing a mental health issue by being restricted on TV. But if you, the parent, and the teacher are working together to serve that child, bringing both perspectives. My daughter went to a new school this school year. I can't tell you how many emails and in-person visits I had with those teachers just to make sure that she was doing all right, make sure. And the day that she had one bad day in that whole school year, it was clear that my mom is not having it, my teachers aren't having it. Right. She came home, she had in-school suspension, she came home and had to write a letter to that teacher because she understood, hey, my teacher is my mom. We're all in one community. So if you as the parent aren't having, or if your child does not experience community with you, then that kind of thing will happen. So that's what I would say to that parent. If they were meeting me as a therapy client or so, I would say, you need to fix whatever's happening in your home with your child. You need to answer whatever questions, whatever they feel they can't say to you, whatever they are seeking outside of you, you need to try and bring it back into the house.
Amen.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much. And I think
Yes, sir.
I will share with you that then later we found out that the child was actually missing so many classes, so she was trying to make an excuse. Yeah, so they found out that she was missing. So I think about 70% of classes she wasn't
Wow.
attending. Yes. So now you can see that she's trying to go ahead and say,
Of
oh,
course. They
so,
call it splitting in my
so I
field.
wanted to share that after your answer. Thank you so much. That was very
Thank you, sir.
brilliant.
Thank you, sir. All right, I have a few more slides. I want to get through these so that we can get to questions. And this is a great conversation. Thank you all for your input and engagement. So we've talked about some of these, but the good part of social media and the space of or the spaces where people self-diagnose or looking for answers to what they might be experiencing. Mental health right now is something that everyone talks about, whether you feel like it's too much or it allows a space to talk about it. Ultimately, for those who need that space, they the stigma is reduced by them going on social media and seeing that, oh my goodness, there's so many people who are experiencing exactly what I'm experiencing. It reduces that stigma. It increases awareness. So even though we had already shared earlier that people can get that information and should talk with or consult with their doctor, therapist, what have you, at least it opens up the space of awareness so that someone doesn't feel completely in the dark about what they're feeling. It increases awareness in that regard and encourages people to seek therapy. So I'm still shocked. I don't know why I am anymore, but I still have first-time therapy clients. I've never had a therapist before. And sometimes when they say that, I'm shocked. They're 30, they're 40. Because I only work with adults, but still, that's to tell you that at least when they are now seeking it, they've seen some kind of comfort in seeking therapy and seeing that other people have great relationships with their therapist. They want the same thing. And it helps people realize I'm not alone. A lot of times people are in their heads, they're trying to figure out what's happening. And just by typing in something online or on social media, then they see, oh my goodness, there's 10,000 pages comes up about ADHD alone, then you start feeling, okay, maybe I'm not alone. Maybe it's not just me. The next slide shows the bad, where it becomes a challenge, quote unquote. You have a community, you see there's 10,000 people just like you that quote unquote have ADHD, but now all the symptoms are hitting you right in your face. Oh my goodness. So now I have a community of folks, but I'm also, have incomplete projects. I also can't stay focused. So it can cause its own problem by now the world that opens up of what you now know about yourself. And that's where the self-diagnosis, and then the self-diagnosis, the challenge of that is that people seek to remedy that on their own. And some of those remedies are damaging, i.e. someone mentioned seeking the street drugs and drugs that could be laced with things. And, somebody has said, oh, I felt better with my symptoms after I took this, took that. Anything can happen that could cause more harm. Now you're seeing signs of, oh, I must be autistic. Oh, I must be narcissistic. I have these traits. But what those things are missing is for how long. And the DSM-5, which is where we house diagnostic understanding of, bipolar and, depression, all these kind of diagnoses, those diagnoses are very specific about calling it this if this happens. So duration, have you been experiencing these symptoms for 3 months straight? Has it been 6 months straight? Have you, what's the severity? Does it happen throughout the whole day? Only half of the day. So that's where it becomes a challenge, because the people on social media aren't specifically telling you, they're telling you about themselves, and you have the community, which is great, but they're not telling you, I only experienced this for 6 months. They're telling you, I have ADHD, and that's it. And then you feel, you're in the community, and that's great, but it's not unique to you. And that's where it can be challenging. And that's why people still need, the professionals to kind of help people iron out all of that. What impairment does it cause? Because I have ADHD, I can now, I know someone who has attempted to take a particular test multiple times and it is not passing it. And now, that person has been able to obtain accommodations based on her very specific case. It causes impairment in this way. So now I can have longer time to take my exam. I can have it where no one else is in the room so that it reduces my distractions. I can now take more breaks than other people. That can't come from a video that you see on TikTok. That comes from someone else in community with you, in partnership with you, and in consultation with you to say, oh, I see that you've been going through this for this long. I think this might be helpful. What do you think? What have you experienced? So that's where it can be challenging, because they don't show all of those pieces, the duration, the severity, the impairment, all of that. And then where it can really get bad is where, or ugly, quote unquote, is the algorithm and its reward. It's hyping up. I put on the slide sensationalism, meaning that you are now a part of the trend. You're not solving anything. You're just in the trend, and you have community, which is great. You feel like you're a part of a group of people who are experiencing similar symptoms, but it's only sensationalized. There is no solving of your actual problem, which is, one of the main things is that if you're finding community only online, then there's something missing in your life. And so the algorithms, you keep feeding yourself into that, you go from one to the other and all of that, and it will cause emotional reactions. It will cause a reaction in you, whether you like it or not. And the louder the claim, it says, if you have ADHD, such and such can happen. And if you don't solve this problem, this other problem will happen. And then it begins to spread, and more people feel really boxed into the sensationalism of these diagnoses, these online diagnoses. So it becomes really bad in the way that the algorithms feed you in that way. And that's why we're presenting it today, that the community piece is great. The sense of belonging is great, but we want to make sure that people they begin to connect that to their everyday life. I don't just want to be a part of the community. I think Miss Ellen asked that question. What do we do now? I don't just want to be a part of the community. I want to be part of the solution, not only for myself, but for other people. All right. Vulnerable people, I just want to run through this real quick. Of course, the adolescents, the youth, we talked about them a good chunk. They already are asking questions like, who am I? And social media answers, you are this. And identity development meets algorithmic reinforcement. So whether it's good or bad, they are reinforced. They feel like, okay, well, there's 100,000 other teens just like me. And while this is a challenge, it's, I'm in a community of people who are also experiencing it. So I'm good with that. And that's why it can be especially vulnerable, because they start to only go with that group, with that particular narrative, and they aren't sharing. If we're not careful as the adults, then they start to only ask questions with their fellow youth, only ask and deal with their fellow youth who also don't know these answers a lot of times. Another vulnerable group, Black and brown communities, and I wanted to add underserved communities. Someone mentioned this earlier about less access, not being able to afford to go to a doctor, go to a therapist, go to a psychiatrist to really answer the questions of the symptoms that you've been experiencing. So going online is the cheapest, freest way to respond to the things that they're dealing with. And what tends to happen is that whenever they go online and they receive these diagnoses, they still can't treat it because they're still underserved. They still, even with whatever they identify as the issue, they're still unable to find treatment, get treatment, culturally responsive treatment. It still becomes a challenge for this group. Immigrant families. There's so many people that fall into the Black and brown underserved communities. All right, I think I have 2 more slides. Okay, so I just wanted to share with y'all when I have a situation like this with a client. I mentioned I had a client like this. What I say to my clients, you believe Twitter is right. I don't care whether Twitter was right. I care about what you're experiencing. So again, if you are a parent or you're a teacher or what have you, you always want to circle back to the person, not what they're saying, they're experiencing, or what they read and all that. I want to know tell me about your experience. And that often opens up a conversation that definitely shows that someone in the room cares. So even if no one at home cares, when you come to me as your therapist, I do care. So I want to know everything that's happening. And I know that you read all these things online. Like I shared earlier, I have a client who has a new diagnosis almost every month. And she'll send it to me before our session, and she'll tell me, I want to talk about this when we meet on Friday, but I think I have blank, fill in the blank. And I read it and I'm like, okay, all right, here we go. And then we'll talk about it. But at the end of the day, I want to know why she thinks she's experiencing that. Tell me your specific issues. And I know, she's been my client for a while now, 3-4 years. So I know most of the things, but I'm not going to insert that in that moment. I want to know why she went hunting online to find this new diagnosis. So that's what I want all of us to do, is to be curious. Oops, I skipped one. And so this can help us, I put client there, but you can insert child says, daughter says, sister says, what have you. But they say, I have ADHD. Why do you think you have ADHD is not going to get you all the way there to really answer what they're feeling. But try asking, what situations are most difficult for you and what happens when they occur? That's really making them answer, okay, what is happening? What's going on in your life? Why? What are the situations that led you to feel that you have ADHD? Like I shared earlier, I had a youth that I talked to for about an hour, the same things. what makes you feel? What are the situations? She talked about unfinished projects, talked about, frustration from childhood that she felt her mom ignored. So it created a dialogue that, if I said, why do you think you have ADHD? She could give me a 5-minute answer. We had a 1-hour conversation because I was able to kind of dig into all of the things that was tied into that. I think I'm autistic. What video made you think that? If you ask the one that kind of cuts it short, you talk about maybe one video or maybe not a video. We don't know. But try asking, when did you first notice these experiences? And how have they affected your relationships, school or work? Now you've opened up. Now there's more dialogue, more conversation. If you really want to know and not just label, oh yeah, I think I agree with you. Or, oh, just watching a video doesn't mean you are autistic. But this last column is teaching us we are pulling more things out of the people. We're building community with them, even if it's our child. Last column, TikTok says I have anxiety. Are you sure that's an anxiety? But let's try, what impact is worry having on your daily life? And what would you like to be different? So again, with this last example, what is the impact? How is it affecting your life? In the other slide that I had, what is the impairment? What could you do before that you cannot do? Or what did you feel you always struggle with? That creates dialogue, that creates community, that creates conversation. All right. I think this is my last slide. All right. So for parents, if your child happens to come to you to say, I think I have anxiety, instead of saying TikTok is lying to you, tell me what made that video feel true. When they watched that video and it resonated with them, why? What made it feel true? What did you connect with? And then you can watch the video with them and then see what comes out of that conversation. For those of us who are professionals, the importance is to not dismiss. Oh, even my client that comes with a new diagnosis every week, I never dismiss. I want to hear all about it. What sent you searching the web for this? What was happening? Because we didn't have this diagnosis last month. So I want to know what's going on this month. So I never dismiss. I'm always asking questions. And also, I'm not going to ever immediately confirm either. Even if, some of the symptoms, okay, let's talk more about it. I'm going to explore. I'm going to validate her feelings. Obviously, there's a reason she went searching, because there's something missing and she wants to feel better. And so I will validate and let's assess together. It's never me as the professional sitting on one end saying, yeah, I think you have this. It's more so, hey, let's talk about this. This diagnosis was different from last month. Let's talk a little bit more. And then from my education, my expertise, my ability to give mental health information, I'm going to use that. While I'm not going to stand as an expert of the client, but there is a space for experts. There is a space for that, and you can provide that. That's what they call psychoeducation. You're not the expert of the client's life, but you do have expertise to say, hey, this is something to look at. That's why all of us go to a doctor, just to say, I'm feeling this, doc. What do you think it is? I think it's this, but what do you think? There's a space for the expertise of a doctor, and the same thing for a mental health professional. And I think that's it. So thank you. These are some of the videos that I only showed one, but these are other videos that you all can watch from Psychology Today. But I think it's a very important conversation for us to keep having, not only in spaces like this, but with our networks, so that people can spread this information to other people and ultimately create community, create safe places for people to be open to talk about things that they're struggling with, because that's what we're talking about. If they have spaces in their lives to talk about it, a lot of people won't go searching for it online. But I thank you for your time. I thank you for your engagement. And I'm going to pass it over to you, Dr. O.
Thank you so much. This has been awesome. But in the chat box, Dr. Alu said, thanks a lot for your eye-opening presentation. The social media is a double-edged sword. It has its positives and negatives. It has caused a lot of distractions for both the young and adult. Today, several accidents on the roads are caused by drivers going through their phones and social media. Just too addictive.
Very
He's
true.
right on the money.
Very true.
Thank you, Dr. Alu. 100%. This has been very interactive. It's been right on point. It is knowledge that a lot of us probably have, but knowledge we need to have, that we should know how to navigate and how to help others around us. But first, how to take care of us and how to manage social media. It's a subject that we didn't have in mind to even think about. So, give thought to what is going on social media and how it can impact us. And thank you, Dr. Ajay, for putting this QR code in the chat box. So what you have here on the screen, information about excellent counselor Aramide Adedeji. Aramide Adedeji is in the chat box now. So you can scan that so you can contact her. And she does virtual counseling too. She has clients all over, and I've actually sent personal clients to her with excellent results. So Medical Mondays is full of just blessings, is what I say, and I really praise God for that. Professor Baba Singri, thanks you very much for your presentation. And, of course, he will thank you, our socialists. He won't thank me. Baba, sure you won't thank me. Thank you so much for your contribution. So, if there are no more questions.
I always thank Dr. O.
I was just teasing you.
Yes, we all have to thank Dr. O because you are the community. You are the community organizer. You brought us together to share ideas, and so that is great. And I think it is time for us to start saying, how do we use it in the community? How do we implement what we are learning?
We've learned. That's right.
How do we implement in our community? So maybe that would be another way. So thank you so much because you brought us together.
Thank you. Thank you, Baba. I was just teasing you because you've been
I know, but I needed
the allopath. And we are always hitting heads.
To tell you that. I needed to tell you that. Yeah, this is a great forum. It's a great forum. Yes.
Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you.
And thank you for the presenter. I know it's a challenge. Now, I have to say, from a sociology person, we don't agree because for us, we're looking for the cause of the problem, and I'm looking with the focus is treating the problem. And for us is, okay, what is causing the problem? Do we go to so that is where we differ, but thank you.
Yeah, but Baba, tonight, she actually addressed the cause, the problem, intervention. It was comprehensive. And I know you enjoyed that. I did too. So if there are no more questions or contributions, I'm going to yield the floor back to you to please give us your closing remarks. And I'm waiting eagerly for that incorporation of the answer to Sister Ellen's question on how do we take this out and actually implement things that we've heard to help others. The floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you all again so much for the engagement. Thank you, Dr. O, for the invitation. My response to, or my thoughts about what to do to implement, I think that it is in each and every one of our hands as parents, professionals, to pass on not only personally, but professionally what we talked about today, whether that is on our own social media platforms. I know everybody is not willing to be on camera. Everyone is not willing to, voice their opinion for the world to see, but we all have communities, starting from our home communities, to really ensure that our children, the people that we're close to, that they feel like they're in a community with us first and foremost, because we can feel that way and they not feel that way. I remember my daughter said something to me. I felt that I was always giving her the amount of time that she needed. I never have a therapy session after 7 o'clock. I have movie nights with her every Friday. I even bought something for us to sit on for that. And I thought I was doing exactly what she needed as far as time, until we were having a conversation one day, and she said, "Mom, you never have time for me." And I was so confused. What do you mean? I have all my time is your time. I'm either picking you up or dropping you off somewhere. What do you mean? And she said, "But you never do. You talk to people all day long, and then, after you maybe have dinner with me or not, and then it's time for me to go to bed." I said, "But, I don't have therapy sessions after 7. That's your time." And she said, "Mom, is it? It's not. You're either still on your computer. My only movie nights is Friday. That's a whole week." Like, she gave me a whole essay about how I was not spending time. And my whole point is that we could be thinking we're doing the right thing and giving what we should be giving when we're not. And so I think it starts with our home, where we are making sure that the people that we are closest to, whether that's children or spouses, what have you, that we are making sure that they are okay and they feel in community with us, where they can talk about the challenges that they're experiencing and not need to seek it elsewhere to feel that sense of community. So I think that it starts there. But then in all of our spaces, all of us are professional on here. A lot of people are doctors and just all these high functioning people. We did high functioning a couple weeks ago. So there's a lot of high functioning people on this call. All of your networks should hear about self-diagnosis online, and making sure that those people in those networks are also then spreading the word. That's how one video on TikTok ADHD goes to 100,000 people, because it starts from one person talking about it, other people feeling a connection, and then it spreads, and so on and so on. So I think that it starts with each and every one of us to really be the catalyst for a shift in society. And and then I think the second thing that I would say is the idea of the labeling and what's the other word? Labeling and the I can't think of the word I want to use right now, but putting down of people when they do present their real selves to us. I think that we all can be more accommodating and allowing for people to be their authentic self if they see that that space is safe and they can be their authentic self, and that's, with parents and teachers and things like that, then you will be able to help influence that person, not change them, not make them somebody that they're not, but you can be in the space of influence to talk to them about their challenges and all of that. So those would be the two areas that I would say can help um, deal with this issue in particular. And really that probably can go for any issues that we can face. Creating community, even as small as our home, and building outward from there, and not putting down people for the challenges that they're dealing with.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You basically have told us charity begins at home.
Yes, ma'am.
We start at home and then expand our community. Sister Ellen, does that answer your question? While she's unmuting, maybe Dr. Alu said, do you have pragmatic recommendations on how to wean our young adults from the excessive consumption of TikTok or social media?
Ooh.
I know. Love it.
Ooh. I mean, yeah, we have a high functioning group, so I don't expect anything less. One thing that I would say, because I deal with that with the youth at my church too, we have to have, let me say it two ways. Social media, I think I can't remember who said it, but AI, social media, all those things, they're only going to get bigger. They're only going to be in really everything that we deal with in our life. So the question is cutting it down and reducing the consumption. And I think that there is a lack of what is engaging, especially the group that we talked heavily about tonight. There's a lack of activities and things that engage them in real life, which creates these silos and platforms for them to just lose themselves in. And so I think a pragmatic way is to identify what are some of the local activities in our area for any parent or teacher or what have you who is looking to engage their younger people. What are some of the activities that exist in our community, and how can I engage them in that? And I would say this too, use social media as not necessarily the enemy, but in partnership, because we cannot eliminate it. What we're looking at is to help the young people see that there are other things that are just as impactful, that can help them in their life. Right now, looking at the numbers, they're seeing everything that they need. They see the kind of food that they want to eat. They see the kind of person that they would future date. They're seeing everything, hence the 5 hours a day. So we want to cut it down by providing some of those things in real life. So, churches, community organizations, we need to provide them locally so that they are spending less time online and finding the same answers in these community groups. When we have events for the young adults in my church, it's some of the things that they'll find on social media. So we're having them play them out. What are these we do, skits. So how do you reduce conflict? Instead of them looking at 10,000 feeds about reducing conflict, we're having them do it in real life. So that would be my answer as far as a pragmatic way. Identify what those local opportunities are for us to engage our young people. We can't eliminate AI, social media, all of that, but we want to cut it down and we want them to have that person-to-person interaction.
Thank you so much. As Florence said. And I echo that. Thank you. We appreciate you. And we'll take what we've learned and we will do better as a community. Thank you. Till we meet again next week, everyone, please stay safe.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
This
you,
is
Dr. O.
wonderful. Bye.
Dr. O, I sent you a text. I'll talk to you.
Okay.